So this is February 26th, and this is day 1 out of 40 that I am choosing to do sort of a fast. And there's different kind of fasts. Fasts generally imply that you stop eating. And in this case, I am not stopping eating altogether. It's more stop eating of certain foods. I'm going to narrow my variety of food so that I'm only eating potatoes and vegetables. I will not be eating any fruit. I will be using limited spices and seasonings and condiments, and no salt, cooked vegetables and salad. So I'm narrowing how I'm eating versus just giving up food altogether. And the reason why I'm doing this is twofold. One, I thought it would be helpful to people who are trying to follow the Gerson therapy if I demonstrated how to do the Gerson therapy meals, okay? And a Gerson therapy meal, just to give you an outline right now of what that is a Gerson therapy meal involves having a potato, a cooked vegetable, a salad, and Hippocrates soup, which normally I would put into a cup and drink. Some people like to eat it in a bowl with a spoon, but I like to make mine on a thin side so that it's more like a broth, and then drink it. So a Gerson meal, again, for those of you who are wondering, is a potato, cooked vegetable, salad, but they must be fresh, and everything in the Gerson therapy must be organic, okay? So that your potato, your cooked vegetable, your salad, and your Hippocrates soup are all made from organic, fresh produce. Oh, and he encourages people on the Gerson therapy to even have some cooked fruit with your meals. And for those who are doing this because they want to improve their diet, maybe they want to lose weight, the other aspect of this is based on what's called Mary's Mini, which is Dr. McDougall promotes a starch-based diet. It's plant-based, but it's also starch-based. And the meal revolves around which starch you choose. And in Mary's Mini guideline, which is his wife, she came up with a diet guidelines for someone who just wants to get a jump start on losing weight. And in that, you choose a single starch, and you pick that one starch, and you don't change it up. You just stick with that one starch for the whole time that you're on it. Generally, it was for 10 days, but you can do an extended time. In this case, we're doing 40 days. So if you're interested in doing a Mary's Mini, you could choose to do 4 different Mary's Minis, 10 days of one starch and 10 days of another. I've belonged to a support group online checking it out, and most people feel best doing a potato mini. When others, as well as myself, have tried other ones, whether it's rice or corn or sweet potatoes, we find it harder to stick to. It's just not as satisfying as having a regular potato. And there are benefits to having potatoes. They're not bad for you. They actually have a fair amount of vitamin C in them, and they have a modest amount of protein, a modest amount of fiber, and they have a good amount of potassium. And eat them with the skin. There's a lot of benefit even from having the skin. So that's where there's a lot of crossover between Mary's Mini and Gerson, is that it starts with a potato and then you add vegetables. Now, if you're following the Mary's Mini, you want to think at each meal that half of what you're eating is potato and half of what you're eating is vegetable. And it can be cooked vegetable or raw vegetable, or you can have both. But you would think of filling half your plate with potato and the other half of your plate with the vegetables, and however you want to form that. And people, in preparing for this, people started asking me some questions. Well, how much do you eat? Well, you eat till you're comfortable. You eat till you're not hungry anymore. And you don't have to stuff yourself, but it's not like you can't eat until you're comfortably full. So you just eat. And if you're hungry again later, you eat. It's not too hard. It's just when you're hungry, you eat. And it works out in the Mary's Mini because people generally lose weight on that because you're eating foods that are so low in calorie, but they're so bulky that you fill up before you can overeat calories. So it's called calorie density. You don't count calories when you're following a Mary's Mini. You just eat until you're comfortably full, and then you eat again later when you're ready. That's all there is to it. I'm just trying to help you get ready for today. And a good way to start today is to go cook some potatoes. Throw a bunch of potatoes in a pot, boil them, cook them, get them done, and you're got a real good start on your day. I'm actually now, because I'm making this video so that you can have it today when you're ready for it. I'm actually doing it the day before, and this is the evening, and I'm going to be cooking some potatoes tonight, so I have them ready for tomorrow. Don't be afraid of eating too much. Just eat until you're comfortable. When someone is following the Gerson therapy, they're doing the juices all day long. So their meal, sometimes it's hard to eat a meal because they just feel so full from having had their juices. So in the Gerson therapy, if you're doing the whole therapy, it's important to eat those meals to give your body some of that bulk and fiber moving through, okay? You need that, and you need some of that other sustenance that comes from something other than the juices. But in Mary's Mini, if you're doing it just to kind of, some people follow the Mary's Mini because they want to limit how they've been eating. You know, maybe you've been eating very rich or extravagantly, and it's time to kind of rein in your taste buds and stop eating, junk food or processed food, something like that. So Mary's Mini is good for that too. It helps get your palate back to appreciating good food, healthy food again. Okay, so that's the scoop on the diet parts now, and my one reason was to help Gerson people and people who like to watch some of my videos to give you some diet guidelines if you're interested. Okay, these are the things that I'm doing. But here's my personal reason for wanting to do it. I'm wanting to do it to get rid of unbelief. And there are times I feel like the man in the scriptures who came to Jesus and said, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." And that's what I want to work on. So I'm going to share with you from Matthew chapter 17, starting at verse 14 from chapter 17:14. "And when they came to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed. For oft times he falleth into the fire, and oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart, and he said, said, Why could not we cast him out? And Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief. And verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit this kind goeth out, not out, but by prayer and fasting." So, that is what I'm basing my time, my 40 days on, is that I want unbelief. It's not, he wasn't saying this evil or this difficulty doesn't leave except by prayer and fasting. He was referring to their unbelief. He said, they asked, why couldn't we do it? He said, because of your unbelief, this kind doesn't go out except by prayer and fasting. So I want to narrow my diet. I want to have more time in prayer, and I want to get rid of unbelief, because nothing is impossible. And there's things in my life that I am challenged by, that I say I believe, but then later I realize I'm doubting. And I don't want that anymore. I want that unbelief gone from me. And this is my purpose in this time, is to focus on this. So maybe there's some areas in your life where you're realizing you're not believing. Maybe you're not believing God for healing. Maybe you're not believing God. I don't know. Everybody has their own stuff. And what's interesting is that over the years, I thought I was believing. But then if you can be honest with yourself and say, I want to believe, I know this is what the scripture says, or I know this is what God says, or I know this is what Jesus says, I want to believe that. If you're saying I want to believe, that's actually unbelief. It's because you're not quite there yet. And it's not the end of the world. It's more important that you be honest with yourself so you can deal with it. And so I have had to be honest with myself and said there's some areas that I need to deal with in unbelief. So that is my purpose for this time. And I forgot to mention, I'm going to put links down below where you can get more information on Mary's Mini, if that's what you're interested in, so that you can follow up more on those. Okay.